Hello everyone and welcome to This Nintendo Life, episode 314. My name is NBZ and it's a momentous episode, Bally, for many reasons. First of which is, hopefully, it's the last episode I'll be using this Blue Yeti microphone, which I've had, I think,
goddamn microphone.
Since 2015. I went to Amazon and looked when my parents bought it for my birthday back then, and it was 2015, so it's 11 years old. It is constantly being a pain in the ass because on work calls, on anything, if I slightly shuffle the wire, it just fucks up and then ruins everything. With Audacity, by the way, if that happens, it will just cut the recording off immediately, so that's shit. So basically, I just need a new thing. I've ordered a new microphone, so that's coming. A temporary...
I hope your work colleagues appreciate you using such a high quality microphone for work calls.
No, they do.
Because I just use like a headset mic and all that for my work calls.
Most people do. Most people use the fucking like microphone on the laptop, for God's sake.
Oh, they need to. That is bad. That is bad. Yeah. That
but
is very common.
Most people work on laptops, don't they? Like they don't actually have proper setup. Although at my place of work, which is not the usual norm, most people have PCs with like proper setups anyway. So it's less of the case in my neck of the woods. But yeah, definitely, I think for most companies, that's probably what's happening there. But
a bit more tech orientated, perhaps, than
exactly. It's also like, you know, for some reason I became the person to go to for voice acting or for voiceover in my company, and part of that is also I have a decent microphone, so it records well. So so
it's part of your street cred. You have to make sure you are doing all your work calls with your high quality microphone.
Of course.
Otherwise, you won't be believed as the audio guy.
No, totally. Also, funny thing. So I am technically also a voice actor, if you didn't know. I got a message from one of the developers on Abiotic Factor, a game we published last year. Actually, 2 years ago, but it came out in 1.0 last year. And he was like, "Hey, you know Latin? Do you want to like do this line in Latin for the game?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
That's
so
cool.
I recorded like this line in Latin, which is now in Abiotic Factor. So I'm now listed on the Moby Games page as a voice actor. So there you go, everybody. The dream has been made. I'm in a video game.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to this Blue Yeti, who I'm going to throw in the bin soon, but
it was the microphone back in 2015, I swear. I feel like
was. I mean, to be honest, it still is. Like, I think a lot of people
is.
still recommend it as a starter microphone for people. It's still a solid one if you want to do streaming.
There's very few products I can think of that have lasted a decade at that level of engagement, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
iPhones, they've done okay. That's another one. But.
Yeah, I guess so. Generally, all that sort of stuff. But hopefully I will sound slightly different, but not too much different. We're in a process of like, me and Bal have been talking about getting new microphones for a long time. This microphone I'm buying is not the actual one I want to get for the long term of the show, but is a nice stopgap that will deal with for a little bit of time.
This is the year that it's happening. We are doing this. We're going to have a great setup. It's going to be great.
Yes, which segues into the other historic moment. This is the first main show episode of the podcast I'm recording from my new flat that I'm in. I moved into a couple of weeks ago, and have been slowly accumulating stuff for. I went and bought a bed frame today, so I don't have to lie on a mattress on the floor anymore. I bought a sofa recently as well. So all these things, it'll take like a month or so for them to be done and come and everything, but
it's a lot.
I have the TV. I have the 65-inch television, which I'm still deciding.
Frying your eyeballs with already.
No, I'm still deciding whether it's big enough, Bal. You know, maybe I'll get the 77 still. Who knows?
Yeah, what is your view on that?
I'm getting more used to it. I think.
Okay.
I need the sofa to arrive and then to sit on the sofa for a while and play it for a bit to then decide.
That's a good stance.
Because I have, Costco has like a 3-month window, 90 days, which is really good for returns. So I could return it and then get the bigger one if I wanted. But the nice thing about this one is that it actually has room for the PlayStation on the side, and like I've put a couple of Dragon Ball Z figures on the other side just to like make it feel nice for the moment until I get some more stuff to put there. So it's nicely framed, basically. You can frame the television with some stuff.
If you have the 77, there will be no more Dragon Ball Z characters. It
Correct,
will take up the entire... Okay, I feel like, do you want the 65-inch or the 77-inch screen is a bit like asking you, would you like this game to run at 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second? And I know that you will always pick 120, so I don't even know why this is a debate, to be honest.
No, I know. It's just like, I don't know. It's the thing of like, how immersed can I get in it? Like, because I always... like if I'm playing on a television at home, my parents' television is very small. It's one that me and my sister bought for them like 12 years ago. It was a 40-inch HD TV back then. And it was like, oh my God, this is so cool back then.
That was huge back then.
Yeah, it was massive. And so every time I'm in Scotland, if I'm playing something on that TV, I take the sofa and I move it really close to it because I just can't sit that far away and play a video game. Like I need to have a certain...
You're not an annoying house guest at all.
No, definitely not. No.
Oh, there he is. He moved the sofa right
just move the whole sofa. Yeah. So in this case, it's a question of, because I'm like 4 meters away from the television, and I'm like, well, is that good enough for a 65? It's decent-ish length, and I'm just trying to balance, like, where will the sofa go? Like, trying to sit at a level where I think the sofa will be when I'm playing stuff at the moment, and, I don't know. I'll have to figure it out, but the option is open for me to change it out if I need to, but I don't know. It's a lot of effort to do that and return things these days. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's all kind of coming together. I bought a standing desk, so now I'm using a temporary Costco desk that is now in my bedroom. So hopefully it's a little less echoey. It will get less echoey as I put stuff in here.
Comes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So everything's just still on the floor. I don't have anywhere to put my clothes, so there's 2 suitcases just like spilled out everywhere. It's a disaster, but this is what it is like right now, and hopefully we'll get better. I've got too many cardboard boxes right now in this house. I have 15 cardboard boxes strewn around the place from various things I've bought, and I'm gonna have more, so I just need to go downstairs and throw them all out once I've decided that I'm happy with everything and that I'm not going to return anything. So
right.
But yes, here we are today on the show, on the podcast, to do something we've not done in a little while. Bally,
I have one more thing to say before we get going with the show.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Did you see Bally Jr.'s gameplay on Blue Sky?
I did. I'm sorry, Bally Jr., don't you mean fucking MLG Pro of the Year? Speed run, like the net star of AGDQ, I think you mean, actually. That was the most insane thing I've ever seen. A 3-year-old dude.
I think it might be the proudest moment of my parenting career so far. It's like,
do you want to describe this for people?
Oh my God. Okay, so Bally Jr. and I are having we're having a really great playthrough of Donkey Kong Bonanza. We just got to the ice area, and he wanted to do the zebra bonanza first, so that we picked that instead of ostrich, and we're there so far. We're 135 bananas in. He has an unbelievable tolerance for like my instructions, my suggestions. I'm leaving it open to him. I'm trying to like say, right, do you want to do this next, or this next? And then I'm letting him decide, but sort of helping him with his... If he decides on something, I'll help him do that kind of thing. But he's controlling the game 95% of the time. The only things he doesn't like controlling himself are timed challenges. And even then, there are some timed challenges where it will start. I see like 2 or 3 fairly easy enemies, and I pause the game and I say, Bally Jr., I think you can do this. Like, why don't you try it? And he goes, okay. And then he'll try it and do it and succeed. And it's very satisfying. But there was a level in particular it's in like the deserty minecart area that's fairly early on in the game, and it's one of the sub levels where you get the 3 stars. So these are like the little kind of Mario Sunshine floodless style
Breath
levels,
of the Wild shrine,
Breath of the Wild shrine levels. Yeah, so you get 3 bananas, and this one in particular, you are standing on moving platforms. And the enemies they're like monkey heads with big feet that jump down and smash you. And it gets progressively harder to the point where the final section of the level is a moving platform. It's a moving lift that goes up vertically. And there are multiple monkeys jumping onto your platform, destroying it, and you are left with a very small amount of platform to like stand on, and then you jump and get the final banana before the level finishes. He was already playing this level really well, so he had a lot of confidence at this point, and I was really pleased with how he was doing. And then we get to the final part, and I'm thinking, oh God, he's going to get smashed, he's going to fall off, and I think he did it. Was it first time, or I think this might have been first time. And
that's crazy.
He just stands there, One hops, it goes through. Another hops, it goes through. I think one hop is not enough for them to go through. They need to hop.
No, it like creates a break in the ground, dent, and then they do another. Yeah.
And if they do another, if they do a hop onto the bit that's already been dented, they will go through it. And he kind of caught one, caught another, and then a couple fell through, and then one fell through, and then another like fall through. And he's constantly moving around this fairly small but also shrinking platform. And then it gets to the top, and it just stops. And all the monkeys they've all fallen off. The banana's there in front of him. He has like this one jump to make to get the banana, and he just makes it. He does the jump, he does the roll, he got the banana, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that just happened!" And then I held the record button on his controller. I was like, "I need to watch this back," and I watched it back. Like, we need to put this on the internet. This is too good. Like, I couldn't believe that he had done it, and like, it
was very good.
I think it's the kind of video that I will show him in 5-6 years, and he will be pretty chuffed that he did that when he was 3. So yeah, if you want to check out my Blue Sky at Ballyman91, you will find the video of Bally Jr. absolutely nailing this level. It was kind of unbelievable. It was stunning. I was shocked. So good effort, Bally Jr.
Yeah, I think the thing that really gets me about it is like at the end, like DK's slightly wobbling because he's on like a very thin part of the ledge of the platform, and then he just like baller does the roll forward jump onto the thing, and I'm like no fear, this guy. Like he's just like, oh yeah, I could fall off here. How about I do the fucking roll jump off the edge?
So I'll admit, the way that he holds the controller, that roll is coming out more often than he intends. He knows that button does a roll, but because he's got the claw grip and roll is done with ZL, he is occasionally just pressing it by accident, which
on his leg or whatever.
On his leg, which it's a weird game where it's kind of accidentally helping him because he's kind of pressing the A button to jump, and then he will accidentally press ZL, which enhances his jump.
Right,
so he's kind of doing like this. So he's kind of like fluking it a bit, but in a good way. Like he's happy with how he's doing it. So yeah, that's how that roll came out, I think.
This child Bally is going to grow up and he's going to hold his analog stick like a fucking Atari and he's going to push his shouldered buttons on his legs, you know? It's going to be really fucked up how he plays video games.
Caroline cannot wait until he's like taking my ass at Mario Kart and all these other things. She is like convinced that he's just going to completely dominate me from an incredibly young age, and I'm fairly convinced as well, so I need to get practicing.
You do. And we got to have some Smash Brothers sessions.
Oh god,
I'm going to teach him a thing or two, right?
Me. Yeah. But yeah, I can talk a lot more about his Donkey Kong in sessions in future. But yeah, it's going very well. He's having a very good time.
Nice.
I'm very impressed.
Well, Bally, with all the preamble out the way, let's get ahead into today's episode. What have we been talking about on today's show?
We are going to be doing our 11th Backlog Club. It is Super Mario RPG? Just Mario RPG? Super Mario RPG,
I believe.
Mario RPG. We are playing the remake from 2023. That's obviously based off of the Super Nintendo game from 1995?
I think? Yes, 95.
And yeah, so we're going to talk about the game up until getting the 4th star in this segment, and then next time we'll check in again and talk about our final thoughts on the game. But this is going to be a meatier conversation about the main nuts and bolts of the game, our experience so far. So next time's episode is going to be a shorter discussion on Mario. And then, so first segment, we're going to talk about Super Mario RPG. And if we have time, we might do some emails. But our discussions can go long, and especially with the Backlog Club, so we'll see how it goes.
Also, judging by the fact that we have preambled this episode for 20 minutes already, I think that probably says a lot. But,
a lot of stuff has happened, so we had to cover it.
Things have been going on. We've got to get the updates out there. So, here we are, Bally. We are once again doing a Backlog Club. It's been a while. I think the thing that I remember having gone back to this format that I really enjoy is... There's a little bit more work to it, which is like when I'm playing a game for Backlog Club, I basically open a notepad document on my PC, and I basically every time a little thing happens that I think is quite cool or I want to mention, I just note it down. And so I have this like notepad document with just random observations of things that happen, just to remind myself, but also because it's nice to kind of go in depth on these episodes about all the specifics of the game. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing it for this game, and going back into that mindset of like, okay, let's write down this thing that I probably would have forgotten if I hadn't written it down, but is like a good way to get across like my early feelings about it and kind of figure out what's going on with it. So it's been nice to come back to. And also, it's been nice to have people in Discord talking about it as well. A few people have been playing it and had a lot of conversations. Some of those comments from those conversations I have kind of compiled here, as well as some comments that after we kind of asked people like, hey, if you want to say anything specific, we've got those here as well. So we can kind of bring those in as we talk through the game and as they make sense to discuss. But let's do a little bit of a history here just on Mario RPGs in general, I will say, from our perspective and our background in it. We will have talked about this previously because one of our previous Backlog clubs, one of our last ones we did before we retired the segment for a little bit, as Bally has some children out there, we decided to play Paper.
I think you mean some MLG pros.
Exactly. Sorry. I mean, training the next generation of legends. We played Paper Mario, which I believe is the only Mario RPG that you've played, Bally.
That is the only Mario RPG I've played, Paper Mario, on the N64.
Right. Bally's history is just the show, essentially, in terms of that stuff. But I imagine, like, you had been aware of these games throughout the years, the Mario RPG games, Mario and Luigi, I should say, and those types of things. So have been aware of them, but really didn't get into it until playing the N64 Paper Mario. I have, like, a bit of a checkered history with these types of games. I played the second one, which is Partners in Time on the DS, and that was around like when we were in school, so I was like 15, 16 when I played that game, and then I have touched some of the other ones, so I kind of got into Paper Mario when it started falling off, which was not the best thing. I played the 3DS Paper Mario, which I wouldn't really classify as an RPG anymore. I've also played Origami King, which is the Paper Mario game on Wii U, and so I played both of those before I played the original Paper Mario, and neither of us have played Thousand Year Door yet either, we should mention, which I do want to get to at some point, because the Switch version...
That's also been remade on Switch, yeah.
Exactly, the Switch version looks really, really nice, and I definitely want to play that version at some point in time, so that's on my backlog.
Could be one that we stick in a future poll, who knows?
Yeah, I guess all our backlog clubs are just going to be Mario RPGs from this point on. Look, there's enough of them to do it. And then on the Mario and Luigi side, I also played... not Brothership, that's the recent one that came out. The fourth one, and for some reason, Dream Team Bros. Sorry, Dream Team Dream Team Bros in Europe, Dream Team in America. For some reason, they added Bros.
Is this the one you really disliked?
This is the one where I was pissed off about it because it
was like 50 hours long or something.
Oh my god, it's so fucking long it never ends. And I've heard a similar sentiment about Brothership, which is why I never really got anything from that game. I was like, I think Alpha Dream, they had a run, and clearly that run ended because they got shut down. So that was not great. They bankrupted, unfortunately. And we can talk about that in terms of history of this game as well a little bit. But so I have a bit of a checkered history, I will say, with Mario RPGs, in the sense that, like, people don't really like the second game, Partners in Time, as much, and they don't really like the fourth game as much. The two Mario and Luigi games people talk about are the first one and the third one, which is Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story. Those are the ones people love, and I've played neither of those. I started Paper Mario after the series turned into, went in a bad direction. So, like... Yeah, I think, like, playing Paper Mario, the original, was the first time I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of, like, more of what people like about these games, right? With the kind of active combat system and all that sort of stuff, and the badges, and the way things work there. And neither of us had really played anything surrounding Super Mario RPG. Had heard of it, obviously, and it was available on the Super Nintendo Classic that we both owned, which we did use for at least I played Final Fantasy VI on the Super Nintendo Classic.
Yeah, I did the same.
That was really fun, actually, playing on the original controller and everything. But I've always been curious about Mario RPG. Like I have mentioned many times in the past, I watched LPs for like 10 years on YouTube, and so that's where a lot of my random information about games I haven't played comes from. So I do know a good amount about it because, of course, I watched Nintendo Capri Sun play through it, but I've forgotten most of that at this point in time, right? When you're watching an LP of a game, it's far more casual. You don't absorb as much about it as if you're playing it yourself, right, and actively being involved in it. So have a good amount of knowledge about it to some degree, but didn't really remember a huge amount, and so was curious to get into it. And then we're doing this Backlog Club because back when we did a poll on our Patreon for the next Backlog Club, we actually put 3 Mario RPGs in there. We put Superstar Saga, the first Mario and Luigi game. We put this one, and we put Paper Mario. And Paper Mario and Mario RPG actually tied in the poll, and we decided, okay, let's do one of them, and then let's save the other one for our next one. Didn't realize that 4 years later would be the time when we would get to it, because obviously many things got in the way. But here we are now. We have played the first, let's say, half-ish of Super Mario RPG. Might be a little bit more to go, I'm not sure. But this was based on our minimal research of what is in the middle of this game. It's a very interesting video game. Bally, before we get into a question on the history of these games and this remake and things like that, what are your first impressions of Super Mario RPG?
My first impressions were, damn, this game goes fast. There's a pacing to this game that just feels so much faster than any other turn-based RPG I have ever played. And on top of that, I think it's a very good first RPG. If this were to be your first RPG, I think there's lots about this game that, especially perhaps the remake, not that I've played the original, that I think one day Bally Jr. is going to play an RPG. Now, our generation, MBZ, we all played Pokemon as our first RPG. And that was basically the only RPG many people of our generation played. I think this game is a lot simpler in many ways than Pokemon. And Pokemon, actually, we could have a whole discussion about how complicated that game is as a first RPG.
Yes.
But so far, I think this game is just very easy breezy, very fast, and just there's some really nice comedic stuff in this game that we can get to. But it's just it's all very nice. It's all very easy. I'm not dying too much. I'm not struggling too much. I'm loving the pacing in terms of location to location to location. Nothing's ever getting stodgy and, I need to do this boss, and now I'm stuck on this, and now we're doing, I've not got enough items. It just all just goes down really nice, and that's always something I'm looking for in any RPG, let alone the turn-based one. And I am very impressed so far, and it took me about 5.5 hours to get to that 4th star, and I'm very impressed. It probably goes down even easier so far than a game like Paper Mario on the N64.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. I have really been enjoying this game so far. I think the nice thing about the way it's structured is it feels quite digestible, where each star that you do is maybe an hour or so, and that includes going to a town, talking to people, going and doing a little dungeon, doing a bunch of combat, fighting the boss, getting the star, maybe doing a little side thing as well, and then you've done an area, and then you move on to the next one. And it I have been playing on the big TV, and just I think it still looks really good on a 4K display despite being a 1080p game, which is very nice. The art design holds up very, very well, but at the moment, because I don't have a sofa and stuff, as I was saying, it's been nice to just play a short segment of it and then go and do some house stuff, basically. So it's been a good game for my current situation, as well as just being nicely paced in general. I think it's one of those games, and a couple of people mentioned this in the Discord, of a lot of people were like, I'm playing this other RPG right now, and I was kind of when I was playing it, I was kind of thinking, I could be playing that right now, which I kind of get in the sense that it's very light and maybe to some degree less engaging from a combat perspective and going through areas perspective. But I think because it is so light and breezy, it's easy enough to pick up and put down, that I think that's kind of to its benefit. Personally, I don't think I would enjoy this game as much if I was sitting down for 4 hours in a row to play it, because it would feel a bit too repetitive from the way it's segmented of the structure of it, but playing it almost episodically like a TV show, it feels a lot nicer doing it that way, and I've found has been very fun as a result. I think one of the things that has really stood out to me is you can feel that this is a game that was made before Nintendo had a brand Bible. And what I mean by that is in Paper Mario, modern ones, in all the new stuff, we always hear these stories about how Miyamoto says you can only have Toads or whatever, you can't have new characters and all this stuff. A lot of the personality of those games feels reduced, kind of pared back, because they have to fit within a Mario world, within a Mario set of rules and approved things. And it's interesting because this game isn't made by Nintendo. It's mainly made by Square Enix, although, Miyamoto is quite heavily involved in it. I think the fascinating part about it is how weird they let it get with some of the characters and with some of the writing as well. I think my favorite part about this game from a narrative perspective is like when Mario's trying to explain something, he play acts the whole thing out. He'll like run around, jump. He will like basically act out every single thing in order to explain the situation because he can't talk. He will act it out with his like very funny situation. Like at the very beginning, he's talking about how like the bridge fell behind him, and he's like he runs out on like thin air basically, and there's like it falls down. Like there's all those little moments and choices that are made that I find very funny because it's like comedy through the limited means they had back on the Super Nintendo, and it's very clear that that's what was on the Super Nintendo and they've transferred it here because it feels very like of that era. It's like what we talked about with Final Fantasy VI, where like the little finger wag in Final Fantasy VI does so much character building despite being a little pixel, right? Like I think there's a lot of there's so much of Super Nintendo Square Enix in this, or Square I should say, before the Enix merger, Super Nintendo Square in this game from a narrative perspective, while also staying more true to a lighthearted tone of the Mario universe. And I think it makes me a little sad about the current state of how things are. And it's almost admirable that Nintendo were willing to remake this and not really change too much about it to show people, hey, this could be a lot more like these games could be a lot more creative and like have weird stuff.
We could properly blend our characters with really innovative new characters like a Gino or Mallow or whoever or random bad sword guy, the Smithy gang.
Smithy.
What you were saying about Mario's jumping and the comedic reenactments he does multiple times, basically people know who Mario is in this world, or they've heard his name, but what he's famous, but they don't believe that they're speaking to Mario, and what he does to prove he is Mario on multiple occasions is jump. And I'm just like, that is literally how Mario would be in the real world, right? If you're like, you're not Mario, and then you just do some insane jump. Oh, you are Jumpman. Okay, right. It's like just
like no one else in this universe can jump that high.
That is hilarious. Like that is for so like funny. A Nintendo game. That is just such a funny thing to do.
It's like it's a bit in a Nintendo game. Like they don't do that, right? And I think that is part of the Square Enix influence here that is showing its head. Is like, and to be fair, like I do think a lot of the character that is displayed here is translated specifically into the Mario and Luigi games. I think there is a good amount of that, but I think the degree to which they take it here is a lot further even than in those games. So yeah, that's like it's very funny as well. Like there's that girl in the first town in the quote Mushroom Kingdom. They call that first town the Mushroom Kingdom as if like that's the whole fucking Mushroom Kingdom.
Yes, it's like looks like Castle Town or something.
Basically, yeah. And then like she's like, oh, there's something under, or it's like you stepped in something and then you have to like jump, and she's like, haha, gotcha, there's actually nothing underneath you. But there's multiple moments in this game where I'm like, I just sit there and something has happened and I'm like, oh, I need to press the jump button to progress this. Like that's happened quite a few times where I'm like, oh, actually I need to do that to kind of make things move.
I don't think Miyamoto would sign off a little small castle town as being the Mushroom Kingdom in the new Nintendo
It wouldn't be counted as
that. It wouldn't be canon. It's just an interesting take.
Yeah, totally. I think the jumping is used in very fun ways. There is I can't remember what town it is. I think it might be like the third or fourth town where you have to get up to this old guy's house. He's like, I can't get up there because, my son has like triggered the staircase and it's disappeared now. And that was the first moment I realized I could jump on a Toad's head and then use them as a platform to then get onto top of other stuff, which I think is how they hide a lot of the treasures in this game as well. But yeah, that was very cool when I realized, oh, I can jump on these characters as they're walking around town. Like, it almost leads to like interesting little puzzle solving, which I thought was very cool. But that's very cool. Then also at the very beginning, in Mushroom Kingdom, you go into like the bedroom upstairs where like a little toad kid is jumping, and depending on your response, what you say to him, either he goes crazy and just starts jumping really, really fucking fast, or you tell him, oh, don't do that, and he just like stands and stops still. Like there's so much character in these like very small things, with all these people around the town. Like they all have like one-liners that are very succinct and just funny. Like I think it's a game where the restraint in the writing makes it stronger, because it's like these kind of small impacts that over the course of it are like, oh, it just feels, and it also contributes to the breezy feeling, right? Because so often in Dragon Quest, let's say, for example, one of my favorite things about Dragon Quest is how rich it is in terms of its towns and the characters, and walking into each house and talking to everyone and getting specific dialogue. But walking around a town in Dragon Quest can take 45 minutes, right? Dragon Quest 11 especially, because all big towns. And I'm talking to everybody, I'm looking in drawers, I'm doing all that stuff. Mario RPG, you walk into a town, and within about 5 minutes, you've seen everything, and I love that, because it gives you the sense of being in a place and being in a town, but it's also like, okay, now we're moving on to the next thing, and like you never have to.
But it still feels to scale for the world. It doesn't feel really small or really. It's like, no, that's how big the towns are in this world. It just is.
Yeah, exactly. It's also interesting how they incorporate like the traditional Mario overworld into things where you don't. The way you transition between areas is you go back to it, and it's like, oh, on to the next level, quote unquote, but it is one contiguous world that you can revisit and go back to, and like you can go back to Mario's house and get to your storage box to take out some mushrooms or whatever, right? Like you can go back and re-explore areas and do that stuff, but it's just framed within like the structure of a Mario game, which I think is very, very fun, the way they play with that stuff. Like it's very respectful to the source material, while still feeling so kind of like avant-garde and doing its own thing. I think it's very cool in that way. I did a little bit of research into this because we did get a question about it, but the history of the Super Mario RPG, how did it come about in the first place? So Elroy on the Discord asked, who originated this idea for a Super Mario RPG? Did Nintendo approach Square Enix or vice versa? What was the context at the time that led to such a collaboration? Had Square achieved notable sales success on Super Nintendo at this time, e.g. Final Fantasy, and this captured Ninty's attention? Or was it creative at Square who long desired to create a game set in the Mushroom Kingdom?
Did they bump into each other in a corridor like...
Right, yes, it was a Kingdom Hearts elevator situation. Yeah, dear. Elroy continues, and one thing specifically for this 2023 Switch remake, any nuggets of info about which team developed it, and any overview of the additions made. I'm not overly familiar with the original game, but I'm aware they added some new enemies here, quick access to the map to aid travel, and of course the beautiful cutscenes and lovely graphics overall. Let's tackle that second bit first, because this was a big conversation at the time this game came out, specifically because this was... It's been happening more and more, but I think this was the flashpoint of the people in the media being like, Nintendo, can you just fucking tell us who makes your video games? Like, they refused to tell people who the developer was for this game. And people were just going insane about it. Like, is it Grezzo? Who is it? Who's working on it? Or Nintendo Studio? And, like, Nintendo just don't tell anybody. They're like, play the game, watch the credits, then you'll find out. And it was... yeah, very stupid. They continue to do it to this day, and I don't know why, but it's very frustrating. But it turned out the developer of this game, ironic because we talked about Dragon Quest, were Art Piazza, who are a small studio who worked on the remakes of Dragon Quest 4, 5, and 6 for the DS back in the day. They've worked on a bunch of different projects, but this was one that they were tapped from Nintendo to do, and kind of makes sense because they have a bit of a Square Enix connection as well. But yeah, they were the developers for this remake. And I've had a look as well about like what the changes were. I actually wanted to go back and try the original as well. I'll probably do that before next time on the Super Nintendo just to see like how it feels and everything. I think the kind of significant things is like showing you an exclamation mark in battle for like when you're attacking, when you need to block, when you need to do the extra damage. The gauge that you build up was not in the original. The thing where you get to 100% and you like Toad comes and helps you. Yeah. Maybe that gauge was in there. The thing that wasn't was the triple attacks, which come in a little bit later. So those which
very Chrono Trigger.
Yes, very Chrono Trigger. Also, like the fact they did these beautiful bespoke cutscenes for every combination of character, I think is very cool.
They are beautiful. Yeah, they're
really
so
good.
Surprising. Yeah.
They're really hype as well, like, and also like some of the effects they have are very, very splashy and very, very helpful. So those additions. Apparently, the storage crate in Mario's house is also an addition, as well as the auto saves and things like that. So I think generally the core of the game is pretty much the same, and they did some different balancing. I think sometimes you get enemies that are kind of marked as special enemies, and I wonder if that's a new addition, because those seem like, okay, maybe a way to like ramp up challenge during dungeons and stuff like that, but those are enemies that will take a lot more damage than a regular enemy would, basically. So yeah, I think overall the Switch remake is very faithful, but obviously adds a lot of quality of life stuff to the game, which I think is very much appreciated by people like us who like that stuff to be added when it comes to like remakes and things like that. So in terms of the original idea for Super Mario RPG, so apparently this started because Miyamoto was interested in making an RPG for Mario, basically. And he had some discussions with Square Enix, and they kind of thought it was a good idea. And obviously they were very close during this era because Square was putting out all the Final Fantasy games onto Super Nintendo. They were all doing very well. It was a very huge deal in Japan. And clearly the companies, worked very closely with each other. This was before the Rift happened, of course, when Square betrayed Nintendo, went to PlayStation, because Nintendo didn't have discs and PlayStation did. But yeah, obviously they had a good relationship. And so Miyamoto, interestingly, so there's a co-director. So Miyamoto is a producer on RPG, is listed, but there's a co-director. I don't know who the actual director is, but the co-director is Chihiro Fujioka. And I looked into Chihiro Fujioka, and he actually worked at Square Enix. And then he left Square Enix, and guess what company he founded, Bally? It will make sense with the lineage of where these games go.
Okay. The company he founded, so where does Mario RPG go? It moves on to Paper Mario. I've forgotten who develops Paper Mario, but is it that company?
That's Intelligent Systems. So
Intelligent Systems, of course.
It is the other branch, Bally. The team after which your fantasy critic is named.
Oh, Alpha Dream.
Indeed. So he goes on with a bunch of other Square Enix people to found Alpha Dream, and that makes a lot of sense, because I think a lot of the character, a lot of the the play acting stuff, he's quite prominent in the original Super Mario, Mario and Luigi game. And so, yeah, he founded that studio with a bunch of Square Enix employees in the year 2000 with Alpha Dream, and they worked on Tomato Adventure, which never came out here, as well as Hamtaro and other games. But yes, he also apparently is in he's in a band that is led by Nobuo Uematsu from Final Fantasy called Earthbound Poppers, which is a progressive rock band. So that's also very fun. But yeah, has a pretty interesting history in video games. And yeah, I believe that Ben Hansen interviewed him after Ben Hansen had played through Tomato Adventure on stream. He reached out and interviewed him, which was very, very cool. I very much like his interviews, and he finds lots of interesting people to talk to. So, but yeah, that was the co-director of Mario RPG, and he went on obviously to found that company, do all that stuff, and then obviously not anymore, because Alpha Dream doesn't exist anymore, which is quite a shame. But yeah, interesting history behind this game, I will say.
Did you get any information on the name? Because I think the name is pretty surprising to just be as straightforward as Mario RPG. Like, it's so weird.
It is odd, but I think part of it is like during this era of Nintendo and the games industry generally, I think the brand of Mario is so associated with one thing, right? Which is platforming adventure. Yeah. And because of that, if you call a game Super Mario and the 7 Stars, someone might look at that and think, oh, it's another Mario platforming adventure.
Yeah.
And I think in order to make it obvious to people, they probably made the decision, let's just be upfront about this so that people know what this actually is going into it. In an era where games media was less easy to get access to, like magazines existed and stuff, but it was harder to know, and a lot of people just bought games sight unseen from the shelf. I think that probably was their motive behind it, was let's distinguish this as a thing so that people don't get confused when they go and buy the game. I think that's my best guess anyway. I'm not sure if that's the case.
Let's just do what it says on the tin to avoid any suspicion of anyone thinking this is any other game than a Mario RPG. Yeah,
I think so for sure. So you did mention, Mally, about the difficulty of the game. So we've got a couple of kind of comments on that, and I just wanted to bring those in. So Tim said, I'm playing the original emulated, and I was finding it very difficult to understand when I'm supposed to time my buttons, my button presses. Then I found in the menu where it explains where to press, at least for the special moves, still very difficult to tell what I'm doing right or wrong for blocking enemy attacks. I do think that with the exclamation mark system they have in the remake, it makes things slightly easier, but I still find like Mallow's electric move, for example,
it's near impossible.
I never fucking know when I'm supposed to press it, and even when I press it, I don't know if I've done it correctly or not, you know? So there are certain special moves that I find almost impossible, and then some of them are much easier. I think the interesting thing about it is because you're changing weapons, each weapon that you switch to has a new thing to learn. So I do appreciate that because it means that you're not getting bored over the course of the game, just the same timing every single time, which is a little bit of an issue with some of the other Mario RPGs. But with this one, because Mario gets a hammer, then he gets a shell, then he gets another thing, like, and then, you know, other characters like Bowser comes in, he's got like the spinning chain chomp and things like that. Everything feels quite different, and not only are you learning enemy patterns to block, but you're also learning new moves for your own characters in order to do them. But have you found the kind of attacking and learning patterns and things like that?
I think it's pretty straightforward and just takes getting used to. I also don't think the punishment for mistiming defensive moves is too bad, to my knowledge. I think that it. Let me go. You can't completely negate damage, can you? If you time it, you can.
Yes. So actually, the thing I noticed about this is that because I was like, in Sea of Stars you still take damage, in some of these other games like Paper Mario or the other Mario and Luigi games you also. But if you block, you take 0 damage in this game, which I thought was very interesting, and actually think it is something that I'm surprised they didn't carry forward a bit more, because you know, I think we have both talked about how Expedition 33's parry system and the fact that you take 0 damage doing that is so satisfying. I've really been encouraged to do it in this game because I know if I get it right, then I will take no damage, and it's very nice feeling when you manage to do that.
And Paper Mario, I think, takes reduced damage. Am I right?
I believe you take reduced damage, yes.
That's what was confusing me. No, you're right. It is 0, and that does feel very good. And I think the bonus of when you time the offensive move, that it does sort of splash damage on the other enemies.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's amazing. And like certain moves like Mario's hammer just feel so good. And there was a time early in the game where Mario's hammer was just completely dominating everything in terms of damage output compared to other characters, and it just very satisfying. I've loved the combat system early on. It feels very simple, very understandable, and even having only played Paper Mario, this is all very within my wheelhouse, very easy to understand, and really enjoying it.
Have you found, because there were a couple of comments about like, I haven't found this item, or like Mallow took ages to get like a weapon. I think the first weapon I found for Mallow was the symbol, and that was...
Yes, I think I might have been the same.
Yeah, that was helpful, but I think you can see that it is a beginner RPG in the sense that it's very simple in terms of the equipment. It's like one weapon, one defensive thing, and like a special ring you can put on that does something, either stops you from taking poison or tells you where hidden objects are and things like that. That is, I think, very approachable. And to be clear, like there were a few Square Enix RPGs that were like this. Like Chrono Trigger is relatively similar to this in its simplicity from like a inventory management perspective, I would say. I do think on inventory management, one of the odd things about it is, in the remake, maybe it's the same in the original, you can only heal from pressing a button in the overworld as opposed to going to the menu and then choosing an item. If you go into the menu and click an item, it says, no, go back out and then press the shortcut and do it. And I'm like, it's kind of odd they don't just let you do it in the menu anyway, even if you're there.
A little bit odd.
Yeah, but I think it works fine, and I think in terms of the balance and like the difficulty, because it's not super hard, I don't feel too bad about like just popping items if I need to, because I know I'll always have enough, basically, even if I'm like maybe close to getting a heal somewhere.
One thing I missed a little bit early on, and wonder if you felt the same, was I wasn't sure how to improve my sort of magic power, how to improve MP, like the amount of units you need to use spells and things.
Your FP,
and
you mean? Yes.
Which one? Sorry.
The FP, the flower
FP,
points.
exactly. Yeah,
yes,
flower points. And yeah, you literally just gain flower point boosts in your inventory that you just have to spend, and that increases your flower points.
Yes,
and
permanently.
I didn't realize that until maybe at least after the first or second star or something. And it was just
really?
like,
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that, and that's quite unusual. I think that you just.
I think it is odd that they put the permanent upgrade into the slot where you have the one-off up, like. A healing item like a mushroom shouldn't be in the same menu as a permanent HP upgrade, right? Like, it's a little odd. The thing that here's a hack, Bally, that I found.
Oh.
If you use all your FP and you're on like 2 FP, don't use a syrup to refresh yourself. If you have a spare one that increases your FP, whenever you use that, it puts you to max FP. So I was holding on to those +1s until I got to a point in the dungeon where I'm like, oh, I'm almost out. Actually, I'm going to increase my FP. At the same time, I fully heal my FP. So that's a good tactic for the back half of the game if you come across.
I've not been finding myself too low on money. Like, I have been buying a lot of mushrooms and syrups and things, and I've been using them pretty liberally because I do think that this game, there's not many places to heal. Like, you've got the inns in the towns, and that's it. There's not actually any healing outside of those inns, to my knowledge. Am I right?
Yes, I believe so. I think the inns are where you can get heals. Sometimes after boss fights or story events, the game will heal you automatically as well, which can be nice. But
and level ups, I think, heal your character as well.
Yes.
But unlike like a Square Enix game like a Final Fantasy, where you've got your tent system and you can be in the overworld and you lay a tent down, save, heal, you can't do that in this game. You've got your save points, they don't heal you, and then you've got the inns and the towns, and that's it. But again, the areas are so small and quick, and the pacing is so good that I've not had an issue with like, oh, everyone's struggling on health and I'm dying again. Like, it's not, I've not gotten to that point yet. Maybe I will later in the game, but like it's very well paced in that sense that you can rely on just the inns to heal. And yes, I still, like I said, I need to use the mushrooms and party healing and stuff, but it's not being like, oh god, I need another heal point, I'm struggling on items, for example.
Right, exactly. I think so. One of the things, having grown up with Pokemon, I've gotten used to it at this point, but I've always begrudged every other RPG for charging you money to heal your party. Like, because Pokemon has the Pokemon centers and it's free, it's universal healthcare, baby. Every other RPG, every fucking other RPG, you have to go to a town and you have to spend money to heal yourself. And I always begrudge it because I'm like, these motherfuckers. Nintendo figured this out years ago. Don't charge me when I want to heal. So yes, I'm used to it, but I think in this game, it's particularly easy because you get lots of money and you don't need to worry too much about it. So I think it's fine at the end of the day. Just on going back to kind of the difficulty stuff, talking about like this being a beginner RPG, like you mentioned, Bally. We had a couple of comments on this. So Elroy said, do already kind of wish I'd played this back as a kid on my Super Nintendo, but I just hadn't been exposed, nor likely had the patience for JRPGs back then. But this would have been the ideal gateway to it, as I'm sure Square and Nintendo intended. And then Tim also said, I'd be interested to hear if you guys think they intentionally made this game an entry-level JRPG to get people interested in the genre, or if its ease of entry and simpler mechanics were just a coincidence, a product of the time, and predates thinking about genres the same way we do now. And if you guys think it still holds up in that role, would you recommend it to a newbie to the genre, or are there much better options now? It's interesting. I think it is a very easy breezy game. There are moments of challenge. Like, I've had characters die and I've had to revive them. I think one of the nice things about the revival item in this game is it's not like a Final Fantasy where it just puts you on 5 HP after you revive someone and then you have to heal them again. Like, you get to max health when you use one of those items, which I think is quite nice. So it just feels kinder to the player. But there is still, timing and the attacks and dodges and things like that. So it's not a complete cakewalk. And there are certain bosses a little bit later that feel like they're pushing the envelope a little bit. Yeah. But I definitely would recommend this as a entry level into the genre from a mechanics perspective. I think there's definitely the thing about RPGs that's always appealed to me is really world building and story, and that's the one genre where that kind of takes precedence over everything else. And I think it's why I've enjoyed the Mario RPGs that I've played, but I've never fully connected with them like a lot of other people have, just because a game like a Xenoblade or a Persona or like these other games are so character focused and so world and story focused that I get connected to that much more, and that's the thing I latch onto, and that's the thing I like about those games versus mechanics necessarily, because I do enjoy turn-based combat, but it's not like the most insane thing in the world. So if we're talking from a mechanical standpoint, I think yes, it is a very good entry-level one. In terms of like getting people interested in JRPGs generally, I don't think I would say that, just because I think though this does have a really fun little story, it is very, very simple. So it's still a Mario story, right? There's nothing crazy going on. And so I think from an investment standpoint, I'd say it's not, I wouldn't recommend it from that perspective. It depends what you're looking for from an RPG. But yeah, certainly if you want to get into it but you're intimidated by the combat or the systems, this is a good one to just like introduce things to people for sure. What do you think, Bally?
Do I think Square and Nintendo intended this as a kind of gateway RPG? I think probably, because I think it's a hell of a lot.
It comes back to them naming it Super Mario RPG, right? Like, it might have been the first time someone's heard that term before.
It's a hell of a lot simpler and shorter than other Square RPGs at the time. And I think, was that because Nintendo was like, right, well, because Mario's in it, we want it to aim at a more family audience, and therefore we need the game to be shorter, simpler? Perhaps, I don't know. Would I introduce this to someone like Bally Jr. as his first JRPG? Probably. And I think it's more to do with the fact that this game is like, I don't know, 12, 14 hours. We'll see how much it is by the end. But like, and having said that, Donkey Kong Bonanza is like a 40-hour game. So we'll see how we do with that. But I think there's something about just, look, we're just going to try it. It's very different to what you've played before, but we're going to try it. And I would try it with him when he's like 7, 8, 9 years old. I think 3 is tough.
Yeah, I think it's also like there's characters he's already familiar with. I think part of it is like younger kids are more familiar with those characters, so they have a bit of an entry point into it, and they understand things about like there's a degree to which they get references, which I think is quite nice as a young kid to be able to be the first time that you understand a reference of something, right? And I think that this game does that quite well. In terms of, I think some of the story stuff is slightly more mature to some degree. Like, there are certain things here of like, well, the thing that I like the most about this game is Mallow being a frog. And then I've written down, so here's my notes on Mallow. I wrote, Mallow is a frog with 4 question marks after it. Yeah. And then a couple of notes later, the reveal that Mallow isn't a frog after all, in all caps, which I think is very funny, because I was like, oh, that's interesting that he's a frog. He doesn't look like one. I wonder why the game is doing that. But it's actually, the game is like, no, you idiot. Of course he's not a fucking frog. He's a weird cloud guy, and he does thunder. Of course he's not part of this family. You go back to the tadpoles, and
he's a marshmallow.
He's basically a marshmallow. You go back to the tadpole village with the frog sage, and you're like, well, okay, it doesn't really feel like, it's like, he was adopted. He was an adopted Mallow. And like, there's a little bit more like levels to that narratively, I think, than a lot of the other Mario RPGs get into. Yeah. So, we'll go on a journey to find out who Mallow. We don't know yet. Yes, don't know who Mallow is. It's going to be a big twist, big reveal, apparently. I think that is interesting from like a story perspective for introducing this to a younger kid.
I also think that by the time Bally Jr. is 7, 8, 9, I think Pokemon's got enough cachet that might end up being the first one you try, just because
I think it is just inevitable.
It's just got the theming of Pokemon and like the idea of battling and all that, like, and collecting, like, it's very upper kid street. And I've already tried to explain Pokemon a bit to him, and he's aware of what Pokemon is, and he's seen it a bit in terms of like TV shows and things. But I think that will definitely latch onto him when he's older. So we'll see. But he does like his Mario, and I think that if he played this now, he'd find it incredibly dated and weird, and like, why are we not fighting? Why are we not jumping? What's happening? But I think just, we could just try a 12-hour game. He might be like, okay, that 12 hours we can breeze through that pretty easy. So
that's the thing with like RPGs, as a genre generally, because it also like it requires reading to some degree. These days there's voice acting, which helps with that, but it is a genre that I think you need to be a certain age in order to even understand in the first place, let alone appreciate, right? So I do think that's why Pokemon is often the one people go for, because it is such a nice on-ramp into it, and it's such a simple, easy, approachable game.
And by the time he's 7, 8, 9, I know that there's going to be another Red Blue remake by then. Hopefully, that will will be.
Of course, yeah. It's all the Pokemon company does is remake their one video game.
Exactly, they'll ease them into the experience nicely. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I just wanted to point out, when it came up with the menu for the first time and it was like magic defense and magic attack, I was like, this is odd. Seeing this in a Mario game spelled out like this, it's like, this is where you see the Square Enix clashing against the Nintendo of like, Square Enix is a very like, here's RPGs, we talk about mages and sages and warriors and all this stuff, and we do magic and all this stuff, and then you see magic defense and it's MG defense and MG attack, and I'm like, it just feels slightly wrong. And I think the slight wrongness of this game is what makes it so interesting, is it is at that intersection before we had rules, before Miyamoto established his iron fist about what Nintendo would do. And I think it's ironic because Miyamoto was quite involved in this game, right? And he was like, yeah, this is cool. Let's put a fucking mushroom cloud. And then here's a guy who's a puppet who comes to life from a star, which is, I think I remember that a little bit about Geno, but had kind of forgotten that was the case. And so it's interesting to come here now. And I think, one of the things that was brought up in Discord was like, why the fuck is everyone so into Geno? And maybe this is a question we can answer on next episode once we finish the game and we get the full narrative arc of Geno here. But something's telling me like I think people are making a bigger deal out of Geno and who he is as a character than the game really is doing. I think it's cool, but like I don't know. Honestly, where's the Mallow love? Mallow's my boy. Like, Mallow actually has quite a lot going on for him, as opposed to Geno so far, who, is important in his part of the story, but hasn't really done much since. Like, he's kind of like the, he's the one who represents, like, the outside force of, like, the Star Road and all this, like, these higher beings, whatever. Which is interesting lore-wise to some degree.
Yes, that's what I think Veluga wrote in about this, saying, if Geno looked generic and didn't have the star doll thing going on, would his actual personality and arc still make him interesting? Okay, like you said, MBZ, we don't know his full arc, but the whole star doll thing was not something I saw coming. It's unexpected, and it's like this whole separate kind of story arc, separate to the whole Smithy crew, and the fact that you go to like this Starland area to find that fourth star, like it's all very like, this is weird. And what will we do if the world doesn't have wishes anymore? And it's like, okay, there's like this whole kind of Pinocchio thing kind of going on here, and he wants to be a real boy. I don't know, it's just very weird and strange, and I can understand why Geno gets the love, because he's just so unusual and it doesn't feel like he's in the right game, and I think that's really cool about him. And his attacks and everything so far are interesting enough, but yeah, I'm interested where his arc goes.
He has a fucking machine gun, for God's sake. Like, it's quite like non-Nintendo. That's what I'm saying. This game just feels so like the antithesis of what they would ever do today, which is why I'm appreciating it quite a bit, I think.
Where do you predict his arc to go?
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like inevitable what will happen is that we'll get all the stars. Geno will like heroically save everybody, and he'll have to like leave his puppet body to go back to live on Star Road, right? And so he's like it's like a sad goodbye type of thing of like Geno sacrifices himself so that the rest of the party can go on or whatever. Like, I feel like that is maybe coming.
That's a little bit dark and more in line with most other Square RPGs, I would argue, but they could go that way.
The reason I'm predicting that is because I feel like the game has proved so far that it would go there, that it would do something like that, right? Like I think that's kind of what's going on so far. Yeah, I'm just quickly going back to the combat command stuff before we move on, because I think it'd be good to like talk about some of the characters and that stuff. But before we get into it, Declan also talked about the action commands, saying one thing I really appreciate is the feedback for action commands. I remember struggling with the Super Nintendo ones, as I often didn't know if I got an action command or not, or how to time it. The remake is really responsive and feels so much better. And yeah, I think for the most part that is true, just in terms of the way that you are seeing them pop up and using them. All of Mallow's stuff, aside, which is definitely the hardest thing to tune in, the electric stuff. And then Maitreya says, I know lack of quality of life options was an issue someone else brought up, but I really like a few quality of life features with the combat. It's hardly unique, but I really like being able to switch a character in and having them act that turn, which apparently is also a new thing they added for the remake. Also worth noting that Mallow is slow, and I found they act after most enemies, so it's nice switching a faster character out for him so he can cast his big AoE spells and go through enemy parties before he would be able to otherwise. I haven't seen a way to... There must be a way to switch out on the fly whenever you want to, but
You can switch out mid-battle, apparently. I didn't know that.
You can do, but I haven't figured out how to do that whenever I want. The only time that it pops up as an option for me is when someone gets put to sleep, and it's like, do you want to swap someone out? Because they're asleep right now. And that has happened a few times. There must be a way to do it, because it's been mentioned here, and I think that is definitely an element that I think is quite nice about this, because if someone dies, you can also swap them out, I believe, and get someone new. And...
Someone dies, you put in the last stand of Expedition.
The last stand of Mario RPG. I do think that, you know, once you have more characters in your party, then that becomes a thing that potentially could be leaned on and makes things a little bit easier. But yeah, I think overall that stuff also makes sense to me. And it's like, it's also interesting looking at those characters and seeing the roles they inhabit, and also, like, have you been leaning in a certain direction after you level up? Because after you level up, you do get to put points into one of three options. It's not quite as binary as Paper Mario, where you have badge point, health, and FP, and you only get +1 every time you level up. This is different, where it's like, well, if you go with HP, you get +4 HP, or if you go with FP, you get this much, or, you know, you basically get to choose, you know, your magic attack and this, or your physical attack and this. And for Mario, I've been leaning physical. Mallow, obviously, he comes with he's basically the mage archetype, I would say. Like, he's a healer / mage. Later you get Peach, who also heals as well. So it's like, okay, which healer am I going to have in my party versus like the physical attackers? And then you have people like Gino, who does have like a special attack, the Gino beam, that is really powerful. Like, do I want to spec him more into special?
But Bowser seems to hit so damn hard.
He does.
Just like, how do I drop Bowser? And then it doesn't let you drop Mario, obviously. So
yes, that's the one thing I think that makes, I get why they do it, but it would be nice to be like, I'm going to do Gino, Bowser, and Peach, you know, like that would be a fun lineup. But I think there's also a limitation to like the number of triple attacks they would have to make. If that was the case, would be even bigger, right? With how many characters you could swap in and out. I do. How do we feel so far about the party, Bally, about all the characters we've got? And do you think this is it? Are these all our party members? Do you think we're getting any more? And who will be added to the party potentially? Because I feel like Yoshi is a potential here. I don't know if that's the case.
I'm not sure there's space for anyone else if you look in the menu. I think it's...
Oh, okay.
It's the 5 of them. 5, is that
Interesting.
right?
Interesting. Because I couldn't remember. Like, I feel like I had a memory of NCS having a Yoshi, but maybe that was just me blending Thousand Year Door with this game potentially.
Well, Peach kind of came out of the party into the party and then back out again. I think she's currently not in my party. I assume you get her back later.
Yes, Peach is a permanent character. You will get her back.
Right. She seemed incredibly weak when she was briefly in my party. So I think Mallow might be the better healer. And then I was thinking, right, but you could just go full firepower with like Mario, Gino, and Bowser. So I don't know. I basically had Mario, Mallow, and Gino, and then I've rotated Gino out for Bowser, and then Peach isn't making the cut in my mind currently. It's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think I have been swapping people in and out a good amount. I feel like generally when it comes to RPGs like this, I like to swap people and not have like a fixed party that I'm just going to stick with for the whole game. There's definitely certain moves and certain special moves that like I think are better than others and easier to pull off, or easier to do like the quick time event associated with them. Like, you know, Mario's fireballs are really nice and they often are quite helpful.
Nice little bit of Mario Party in there. Bam, 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 bam.
Definitely. Yeah, I was going to say, your skills definitely coming in helpful. Any AoE attack is always good, right? Like, I think that's why Mallow's...
There's not many, are there, though?
No Malice Lightning is the big one that I always go to, and then I think maybe Bowser has. I think Bowser has the Terrorize one, where he makes everyone afraid, and so that status gets on people, but then also does damage to them at the same time. So that one is okay. But yeah, again, like you said, Bowser is quite a physical character. So yeah, using him is interesting. Yeah, how have you felt like the narrative side of things as you like acquiring these characters and the places we're going and that sort of stuff? Because I think that like it's been very fun so far in terms of the different locations and the different things that you're doing as we kind of explore this space and see what's going on. Because like Bowser is a very fun one where I think back in the day that would have been a real shock surprise to people of like, oh my god, Bowser is in my party and he's a playable character. Like it really is breaking the rules of what Mario should be in a sense. And there's a lot of fun stuff of like, you know, the way that he acts when he's talking to himself versus when he thinks that someone is listening to him. And he's like, oh, do you... like when he joins the party, instead of it saying Bowser joined the party, it's like, you joined Bowser's minions, basically. Which I think is very fun way to twist it, to be like, okay, the only way that Bowser would join the party is if he convinced himself that actually Mario's joining me and I'm going to recruit him into my people, basically. Which I think is quite good, so...
It's cool. I think the overall story is kind of, I don't know, weak but also strange, where it's the whole you're fighting swords, which is just the most strange, weird thing.
Is that what they are? Are they all like swords with like stuff around them, or weapons with stuff around them? Because I was looking at these characters, the bosses you fight right before you get the stars.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be like, what is the through line here with these guys?
Well, they're called they are called the Smithy Gang, so they're all things I guess a smithy would make.
They're all weapons to some degree, right?
Yeah. Which is just strange, and they've taken over Bowser's castle, which is very strange as well. But yeah, I think location-wise, you got the Mushroom Kingdom, Tadpole Pond, then you got the Moleville Mountain, and then you've got the Booster Tower, which is just a very strange place. But that guy Booster looks a bit like Wario in some ways. And then you go on...
Booster is a really interesting... Yeah, like I think he has stood out to me as a villain so far, just in the way in which he looks like a knockoff Mario character. Like he looks like...
Yeah.
Oh, what's the fucking Disney character? Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit?
Oswald, yeah.
Like, Booster to me...
Mortimer Mouse?
I don't know who that is. You're going too hardcore Disney for my taste.
Mortimer's a little hardcore Disney, but yeah.
Okay.
Oswald is the other one, yeah.
But Booster to me feels like Wario's weird cousin who was got left on the cutting room floor. He was like in one game in like the 1980s there was a Booster and Wario game, and then Booster was forgotten about forever, but he comes back like I think,
but then kidnaps Peach and tries to marry her, and they've got the whole Marrymore. There's a whole town just for getting married.
The Marrymore town.
The Marrymore Inn. What do you know what happens when Mario has a shower at the Marrymore Inn? Can you remember?
Are you talking about when he goes through the curtain and comes out as an 8-bit Mario? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's very cool. That happens in the tower, I think, not in the tower.
That is in the tower, in Booster's tower, right, yeah.
It's along those lines. Basically, he whistles the Mario Brothers theme tune while he's showering, getting ready for the wedding or whatever. It's very good.
Yeah, that stuff is all very fun. Like, there's lots of little nods and references with all that stuff.
There's a Samus sitting on the table in Booster Tower. Did you see that?
Yes, there is. There's the little toy box that has Samus in it, as well as I think the thing that I really like, actually, going back to like Geno and that introduction, we can talk about in a bit, but like the kid playing with the Mario toys and like play acting of like, oh Mario, I'm gonna be Bowser and Peach.
Yeah,
like it's very fun to see. Like it's really good world building, right? Like, and
it's the kid Ewoks talking about the legends of the Star Wars through C-3PO and Return of the Jedi. Yes. It's like the lore exists within the world. Like they're talking about Mario and Bowser.
Right, exactly. And like it's just very fun when Mario shows up and people are like, oh my god, it's Mario. and that, his mum doesn't believe that Gino's alive and walking around and all this sort of stuff. When Gino walks in and the mum's like, "Oh, that's a nice costume." Like she's just like, "No, this is not real. This is wouldn't happen here." So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff that happens there. But going back to Booster, like the whole wedding stuff with Booster, I think is probably one of the highlights of the game. Just in terms, I think the whole Booster Tower is a really good dungeon overall. Just very fun to go through. And then a lot of little things in there. Like trying to break down the door as well, like the fact that Booster is like, "Oh, go on, help me," and like you're trying to help him. He doesn't.
That's a weird bit. Yeah, the timing is strange, isn't it?
You do it a couple of times because you do it with Bowser to open a door, and I can't remember. There's a few times where you do those like little things. But like actually going to the wedding, all the Shy Guys and like trying to take the items from the Shy Guys took me. How long did it take you to find the crown? Because I was going around.
Oh, I had to like look it up. I was so dumb. Yeah, I could not find it. Yeah,
and then I realized, oh shit, it's on Booster's head.
Exactly.
But I think it's not clear because I'm like, oh, maybe that's just Booster's own crown. Like I didn't think I could interact with it in that way. I think I accidentally landed on his head and got it. And then there's the section where Bowser and Booster kiss, I think it is, where like Peach she basically tricks them into kissing each other, which is very funny. There's a weird moment where Peach is crying.
They're very outrageous in 1995.
Pretty outrageous. I mean, they did do a similar thing in Mario Odyssey, not quite to that extent, but Peach is like, "Oh, Mario, Bowser, I'm gonna go off on my own adventure and leave you two in the dust." So yeah, still doing similar things, I guess, decades later with the Peach and her character. But one of the weirdest moments is Peach is crying and Booster like opens his mouth next to her and he's like, weird, these are a bit salty. And I'm like, what is going on? This man is like drinking her tear. Like, what is it's very odd. Like he's very creepy, obviously, and like I don't know, the way that it's played is very much like it goes back to original inspiration for Mario, which is very Popeye, isn't it? Like there's a very Popeye-ish energy to like the villainy of Booster and him stealing the damsel. And I guess this kind of segues into one of the things that got brought up by Matraya, which is, I would like to know your guys' thoughts on the mini games. For the most part, I haven't been a fan. That rhythm game on the Yoshi Island feels really off, hoping it's just a skill issue on my end. And when Matraya talking about mini games, I'm thinking about like all the custom sequences in this game, where you're going down the river rapids and you're moving Mario across, or you're jumping on the barrels to roll down the river, or you are rolling up the mountain.
I don't know the Yoshi Island reference that he's made there. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But because there is the like puzzle to jump on the tadpoles to like unlock a music thing, basically, which I wouldn't necessarily include in the same way as like
the
these sections, the minecart. All these sections to me is the most square thing about this RPG, right? Like Square in the 90s, I think best epitomized in Final Fantasy VII, are all about stuffing in weird mechanics that don't really fit and are not really well tested and a little bit jank into their games. Final Fantasy VII has the snowboarding, it has like all the stuff at the Gold Saucer, like the Chocobo racing and all the breeding, like all that stuff, which is so great from like a world building and like variety perspective. And it feels like this was their influence on the game. It's like, okay, after each like area, we're going to have like this fun sequence that is more platforming focused and almost like recalls Mario, like traditional Mario in a way, but in a way that is not as great to control. Like it still feels good. I think a lot of those sections, like they feel okay. But yeah, what do you think about those parts? Because to me, it was just like nice little break, nice little variety.
I think I like the idea of them, and I think the way they're implemented is they're all just a little bit jank. Even for a remake, they just feel a little bit too jank for me to actually enjoy them a ton. I like that they're different, but I feel like every single one, it wasn't until the very end of each minigame I actually quote unquote mastered the controls and was
got
able
good
to
at it,
to do well in them. Exactly. And it was like, up until then it was quite a lot of frustration with every single one. It's like,
really?
I need to jump on the barrel to do this, to do that. I'm not doing the right type of turn on this minecart thing. Why is this not Donkey Kong Country? And it's just like, it was. I could take them or leave them personally, but I appreciate the change of pace.
For me, I think the reason I like them is there's really no stakes to them. Like, it doesn't matter if you die or lose coins. Like, there's plenty of coins all over the game. It's just kind of an opportunity to get some more, I guess, and maybe some frog coins or whatever, which can be helpful for a certain area where you can get some nice items. But yeah, it doesn't feel like there's nothing that is tied to it that is a necessity, and I think they just add flavor, and I think they break things up nicely. I definitely think there are some which are a little frustrating, more frustrating than others. Like the one that, the reason I kind of brought this comment up is talking about Booster, and when you're on the barrel chasing Booster up the hill as he's stealing Peach away, trying to get close to him and jump on the barrels to like get you close enough to him, just the timing on that is quite hard, and it gets quite chaotic with all the barrels coming downhill, the Shy Guys coming from behind, like just the balancing of that becomes a little tricky. But I think for the most part they're a nice addition that fleshes things out a bit, and I don't know, it's one of those things that I really appreciate about these old RPGs is like there's a way in which games back in this era hadn't written all the rules yet, and so they kind of did what they wanted a lot of the times. They're like, oh yeah, okay, we're going to spend time doing this. I do think that like Final Fantasy VI is an interesting example where there's less of this, but I think they do more interesting things with the scenarios, like when you're going down the river rapids and like it's still a turn-based combat, but the situation is more interestingly approached of like choosing the path you go down, and like the multiple sections in that game where you have 3 characters split up as like groups, and like the one where you're defending as people come up, and it's almost like a mini strategy game, but you're still the core of it is still around the battle system, but they frame it in a more interesting way so that it's not just like, oh, he's just going through more dungeons with more battles, basically. Like there's more narrative thought to it, and I think part of this is just like making the world feel a little bit more rounded out, and so yeah, and there's certain ones you can go back and do, like the town with is it mice, or is it, I can't remember what they are, the mining town area?
Oh, the moles.
The moles, sorry, the moles, of course, that makes a lot more sense because they're digging. You can go up to the top of that hill and jump down and restart the mine section again if you want to. Like there's a little like high score element to it, which I think is, it's nice if people want to go back and re-experience those. It's not just a one-off thing. You can redo it if you want to, which is cool. So yeah, I like those generally as little pace breakers, and yeah, they're very interesting elements, and I hope there's more variety in them, because I think at the moment it's very much been a riff on a similar thing. So like the rolling on the barrel and jumping, or I think, there's a little bit of Mode 7 being used, right? With, I imagine the original did this, right? Because this game, the remake, full 3D, looks very nice, but I imagine like the minecart section where you are behind the back with Mario, they probably made that quite impressive at the time because of Mode 7 stuff.
Yes.
I think that is probably a thing to think about as well when we think about these, is like part of this is also showing off a bit of the tech, because it is an isometric game on Super Nintendo, right? And there is an element of like pseudo 3D going on here that makes it a showpiece in some senses, as well as like, we're just introducing RPGs to the Mario universe. So
it's interesting that the lineage of, this game became Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi, which arguably both became the kind of Pokemon top-down style RPG, and not the, I don't know, third-person open world Dragon Quest Persona style game. Like that's just not where Mario has gone for whatever reason, even though that might have been the equivalent of doing the, isometric view in this game.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's very cool, and yeah, all kind of comes together nicely. There are a couple of comments. We talked a little bit about the humor, but I do think this game is quite funny. Like I think generally speaking, like not just the play acting stuff, but I just think Booster, like a lot of the lines of dialogue, like there's a real comedy to having Bowser in the party, to having Peach join, and like the interactions that happen. Obviously Mario is always going to, be voiceless, but all the characters doing stuff together. I feel like the back half of the game, hopefully they have a bit more interaction with like, because like the current party is Mario is your kind of anchor, and then you've got Gino and Mallow, who are just weirdos, new characters from Square Enix's or Square's side. I keep doing this Square Enix thing. And then you have Bowser and Peach, who are very traditional Mario characters.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more like Mallow talks to Peach, or Bowser and Gino hang out. Like I want to see a bit more of that interaction between those sides of the party, because I think one of the things that defines RPGs is like the interaction between party members, and that is something that I think hasn't quite gotten there with this game yet, because everyone feels like they have their own individual quest, and maybe that's what the back half of the game will have a bit more of, because
we're not sitting around the campfire having discussions akin to other RPGs, but yeah.
Totally. But like, I think so far, because Mallow is your first character and you get a bit of his story, then Gino joins and it's focused on him. Like every character who has joined so far has had a bit of focus on them for that section, and now that we have these characters, and if your thing is true that this is the party, then I hope the back half does a bit more of that, so we'll see if that's the case. But on the humor, we had Capsule J write in saying, while the tone is similar, I felt like I was more often caught off guard by things characters would do or say in this game compared to Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi. The Nintendo standardization of the Mushroom Kingdom hadn't happened yet, and Square is able to fill in some of those gaps that we saw fit. So yeah, something that we have already discussed, but I think it bears mentioning again, is like, this game feels riskier and it feels bolder because they can kind of do what they're playing jazz a little bit, and can kind of do what they want. Tim also said, I'm not sure why, but I always perceived this one as more serious, while Mario and Luigi introduced the silliness. But no, the tone is very similar to Superstar Saga so far. Which makes me want to go back and play Superstar Saga. I have played the start of Superstar Saga maybe more than any other video game that exists. Like, maybe
how
12
did that
times.
happen?
I don't know. Like, I tried to LP it like 3 times at this point, and just it's never worked out for me. So I do want to play it, because I think it's really one of the interesting things about Super Mario RPG is it is the origin point, and then you branch from it to 2 different strands of Mario. And so there are elements here like Mario gets the hammer in this game, which apparently was the only weapon that Miyamoto allowed him to have. He was like, you can't have any other weapon. The hammer only. Yeah, but that's not it's not a sword, is it? It's like, it's Miyamoto. He just wants everyone to be nice to each other. Like at the end of GoldenEye.
I thought you meant like he was protecting Mario items or weapons, but you're saying, they didn't want Mario to be violent. Got you.
I think he didn't want Mario to be too violent, but the hammer was okay apparently, and the hammer
and give Gino a machine gun, but other than that,
sure. Gino's not a Mario character, so he can do what he wants, right?
He can have a rocket launcher or something.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? What I was trying to get at is the fact that I think this is the origin point of the hammer in Mario games, right? No, it's not. I'm an idiot. Fucking Donkey Kong in the arcade is the origin of the hammer. I was like, where's the hammer coming from? Obviously, it fucking goes all the way back. That's why Miyamoto lets him have the hammer.
That's why the animation on Smash is so staccato. It's meant to be the frame rate of the arcade machine. Of course.
Yes. Sorry, I'm an idiot. But I think that the hammer being allowed in this game is probably because of that reason, because it's the only weapon that's ever been associated directly with Mario, and therefore, from a brand perspective, it's allowed. It's one of the brand things, I guess, that Miyamoto did want to enforce as part of this game.
Mario plus Rabbids, he's got a regular gun.
That's true. He does have a gun in that game. It's a laser gun though, so it's okay. It's not a bullet one. I think the thing I'm trying to get out with the hammer is the thing that carries through to Paper Mario and isn't. It's definitely a factor in the Mario and Luigi games. I think that it does appear as an option for them, but I feel like I associate the hammer more with Paper Mario for some reason, because it is kind of his core like attack after the jump. Basically, it's like those are the 2 things. So I think the pacing of like the town to town stuff was also more in Paper Mario, and then when it comes to like the writing, the comedy, the kind of expressions of character, it feels like that stuff is far more prevalent in the Mario and Luigi series. So it's cool to see how this origin point just spreads in different directions with those 2 series, and how like we're now at this point where one of those series is kind of done because the studio doesn't exist, and the other series is also kind of done because Nintendo haven't done any kind of thing interesting with it recently, and they're not really RPGs anymore. So yeah, it's odd to be in this place where we're getting a lot of remakes of like some of the best Mario RPGs, but have not really had a good modern one for quite a long time. So interested to see with them having done this and then Thousand Year Door soon after, if we're ramping up to potentially get a new Mario RPG, but we shall see. There was another comment from Elroy about items and weapons, talking about, I think I'm missing some items pickups along the way. For example, I didn't have a weapon for each of my 3 party members. I saw someone have a magic rod equipped for Mallow on a YouTube video, but never obtained that. I also have never obtained a magic rod for Mallow. So I think some of these things are a little bit out the way. Like I said, the hidden block might be my least favorite thing about this game, because
it doesn't work.
I have literally never fucking found any of them. Like I took that ring off because at some point I got a ring that was better, that increased my stats, and that's far more helpful. But I don't know what's going on. I don't think there are any of these fucking hidden blocks in this game. Like, where are they? I'm jumping on every fucking square and I can't find any of them. So
even in like one of them was in like, I think the throne room just of like the Mushroom Kingdom castle and Peach's castle, I guess. And even there, that room before the throne room is pretty small, and I must have jumped around it for like 5 minutes straight and like could not find anything.
Exact same experience as me, and I was like, what is going on here? There must be something else, some trick that I'm missing, but had no idea what to do there.
Here's a weird thing. So I was playing like up to the checkpoint. I had the 3 stars. I got to, what do you call it, Star Hill, and I thought, right, okay, so you're going to walk through an area. You're going to go through a few areas because you might fight a mini boss or something. Then there's going to be a final boss, and then you're going to get your star. And you're literally, I think I was walking around Star Hill for less than 20 minutes, and I just randomly found the star on the ground. Like, it's just, I was like, what? This is not how you structure an RPG. How can you have a pseudo dungeon where you just find the MacGuffin randomly on the ground, and that's it?
The thing about it, and the reason it does make sense, is because the entire sequence you've just done with Booster, you haven't got a star for doing.
Okay, no, you're right.
This is the star for the Booster segment. Right. And so they do it in a little bit of an odd way, which is the star isn't with Booster. That is the boss fight. That's the whole area. Then I think they shake it up a bit because it's like, oh, let's go to this interesting area that kind of ties to maybe a bit of the lore of what Gino is talking about with Star Road.
Really beautiful area, like
Stunning.
Star Hill.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah. I think the way they have upgraded this game from a visual perspective is really admirable, from like the fact that it is all the exact same from like a, tile perspective of like it's the same size of towns and all these areas, but they have just made everything look so much more pretty, right? Like it's really fully upgraded, and I think it's a very, like, I like the way Mario looks. He's like a little chibi guy, and it looks right, it looks exactly what it should be.
It's like, there's like fat Pikachus, there's like fat Mario. The retro,
little stubby
chubbier,
Mario.
Shorter.
Yeah, totally. He's having a great time. So yeah, I really like that area. Hopefully we go back and do something else there. Or maybe the end of the game is around the Star Road stuff. But I like the little, it's not really puzzle, but you go around and turn things on and, open the key doors and it takes you to a new area. Like, I think it's a nice kind of come down after the whole Booster section, because that is it's a pretty intense part of the game in terms of lots of combat in the tower and then doing all the Booster part and then going to Marrymore. Like, I think honestly it is the best part of the game so far from a narrative perspective, a comedy perspective, and all the areas you're going to. And I think it's very strong. So yeah, I feel like the game is gonna have a lot more surprises hopefully and a lot more things going on. But yeah, any feelings or thoughts on where things are going, Bally, potentially for the next part?
I like the dueling narratives of like, we've got to bring wishes back to this world, and that's why we're finding the stars. But then I guess Bowser wants his castle back is the other thing. But other than that, Peach could go back to the Mushroom Kingdom right now. I think we've just delivered her there, in fact. So like, there's nothing that I feel Mario or Peach are playing for. It's all about Gino and Bowser, which I think is just the narrative turned on its head a bit, which is quite fun.
Right. I think the Peach stuff has already happened, Bally, as far as I'm aware, because the Star Hill thing, I think, is after you go back to the Mushroom Kingdom. I think you do Booster, then you go Mushroom Kingdom, then you go to Star Hill, because the town I've gone to after Star Hill is like the one you immediately go to afterwards. So you should still have Peach in your party, because there is a little cutscene of her.
It was weird. She was like not in my party and then back in my party or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so she's like, I'm going to stay in the castle, and then there's a cutscene. She jumps down from the window with her umbrella. You got that right?
Yes, which is hilarious. Yes, I remember.
So
that,
so she's now back in the party basically.
Yes,
so,
no, you're right.
Yeah, I imagine will be for the rest of the game.
She is very weak unless I've not got an item for her that's good yet or something. But like,
right, because she just slaps with her glove at the moment, which is funny. Do you have a favorite weapon you've used so far? I like the shell for a while, but now I can't remember what I have now with Mario, but I think a more powerful thing than the shell appeared, and then I swapped it out. But,
I've got an upgraded hammer or like the next hammer or something.
Interesting. Okay, I don't know that.
Very powerful. And then Bowser's got something. I can't remember what he's got, but it's also.
Did you get the chain chomp because that was a secret item in the dungeon?
Yeah, I did. That was cool. Yeah. I think I've got that on Bowser, which hits very hard, but it's also quite hard to time. So, enjoying that.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky, I think. So one other observation. There's a few observations I'll run through here from my notes, but I think the inventory is tied to Mallow, and if he dies, you can't use items, I'm pretty certain, for some weird reason. So I was in a fight, and Mallow died, and I was like, oh, okay, let me revive him with an item. And neither Gino nor Mario could access the inventory, and I was like, what? Why? Why is that the case? And then afterwards...
Had the boss used some sort of item, you can get like the equivalent of silenced. There's something that blocks you from using the item.
I don't believe so. I don't think that was the case.
There's one boss I thought was very cool where it rotates between blocking you from your regular move, your items, or your magic moves, and it rotates between the three.
Right, with the button, and it just stamps on one of the buttons. That is very cool. Yeah, very cool. The bosses have been quite creative so far, which I like. I think that's very much appreciated. But maybe it was to do with that, but at the time I was like, is Mallow the only one who has the inventory, and if he dies you can't use items? That might not be the case, but I was like, this seems a bit fucked that was a decision, because I went into the menu and I was like, can I assign the inventory to someone else? And it's like, couldn't see any way to do that, so I was like, okay, I guess this is how it is. Okay, another fun thing, the physics on the curtains in Booster's Tower. I was running around these curtains non-stop because they were just like well put together.
That was a fun little mini game sequence thing. That was fun.
Yeah, I guess I would count that in the mini games as well. Of like, it's so funny. It's like, let's take a look behind these curtains. One shy guy, you go, and then like you just have to like run back and forth, and then eventually it's three shy guys. It's like, oh god, I can't get hit and seen by them. And then eventually he opens it and sees you, but he realizes, oh, the doll is up there. Oh, we need to get the doll, and then it becomes about getting the doll, and then he doesn't even realize that you're there, which is very funny. I think it's
just up there with the rope in Last of Us Part 2 that you swing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think the amount of effort they put into the physics on the curtains is such an odd thing to do for a game like this. It's like, okay, that's so it's very cool. And obviously in that section we already mentioned, but the reference of the Mario 1 thing where you go behind the curtain and turn into 8-bit Mario is also very nice.
Very cool. Is that in the original?
I think it is. Yeah, I believe it is in the original. So yeah, there's lots of stuff that they were riffing on even back then. Even in the, Nintendo, we talk about their fucking obsession with nostalgia, but like even only like, I don't know, 10 years into the existence of Mario, we're already doing nostalgia on Mario with a Super Nintendo game,
we're still doing it 30 years later.
Tradition that continues. I think we're 40th anniversary was recently for Mario, and we're coming up with Zelda this year. So
jeez,
yeah.
I meant 30th anniversary of Mario RPG, but
god, you're right. Yes, Jesus, we're past the 30th anniversary of Mario RPG. Holy shit, yeah. I think we need a few more Mario RPG references in our video games going forward, to be honest with you. But yeah, feels like Nintendo. God, yeah, let's save that conversation until next episode, once we've seen the conclusion of his arc, and then we can all decide, are people idiots, or is Gino like secretly the best Nintendo character?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay, I've got a random thing. So at the start of the game, Mario comes out of his house and there's a save block thing in the corner, and Toad says, he explains, oh, this is a save block. Save with this block like the good old days. When did Mario previously use a save block to save in the game that he's referencing? I'm lost.
I think it's saying this is a remake of the video game, and back in the original, you had to. The only way to save in the original was save blocks, right? Because that's how games worked.
Oh, but he's saying it saves automatically, but you can also save on this save block like the good old days. Okay.
Correct.
Very cool.
So he's saying the game does auto saves. This is a modern game, but he's saying, hey, if you wanna, which I do because I'm, my brain is broken. I have to make sure, and I've had so many experience with like lost save files that even if a game auto saves, I will always, before I turn it off, manual save the game. Like I cannot do it otherwise. So yes, I definitely still use the save block to do that. So yeah, that's what he's referencing. I don't think he's referencing any old game.
Impressed. But, I like stuff like that. A lot of the writing's been very strong along those lines. It's cool.
Yeah, very sharp, I think. Like, it really does a good job. Yeah, I think, like, there's a lot of character. Like, the very beginning, like, it's nice being in Mario's house and, like, seeing the little things in his room. Like, there's a whole set of clothes on the side, like, on the wall. It's, like, it's the only outfit he wears, and he just swaps out the two outfits, basically. And, I like that the bed has physics. Like, you can bounce on all the beds in the world as well. Like, you can go in Peach's castle and bounce on her bed also. Like, there's a lot of fun interaction with that, and like there was a treasure I found by platforming my way on top of a house in one of the towns. Did you find this?
Yeah, I remember that.
Where there's a chimney and you go down the chimney, and that lets you get to a treasure chest you wouldn't have been able to get to otherwise. So I appreciate the ways in which they are weaving platforming into this game, despite obviously it not being a platformer.
Yeah, this game didn't have to have platforming, but they chose to have it, and that's fun.
Yeah, because it's just core to Mario as a franchise. It's part of the identity, right? Like you were saying in the beginning about how every time he's being recognized and people are like, oh, I don't believe you're Mario, his jump is such a... Like, Mario's jump is, like, almost as revered in this world as it is in our world, there's such an obsession there that is so funny.
But could you imagine, like, David Beckham comes to the door and you're like, you're not really David Beckham, and then you're like, go on, bend this ball around that corner, and this does the most insane free kick and bends. You're like, oh, it is David Beckham. It's just like
so
the
funny.
Equivalent of that. It's so mad.
That's incredible. That's a great comparison. Yeah, totally. It's like, can you do like 25 keepy uppies in a row blindfolded? There you go. Then I'll believe you're a real footballer. Jesus. It's I think it's one of the best parts of the game. Like all that stuff is very, very well observed, and just, even back then, like I think they understood the reverence people had for Mario as a brand, and replicating it here is great. So.
And there's just been no dungeon that I've got stuck in for more than 45 minutes, and it's like, here we go again. It's all just so quick, and it's not too easy. It is quite easy, but it's not just a complete breeze. And I just think it's just the pacing is just my highlight so far.
Yeah, 100%. I think it just goes along at a pace that's really, really easy and nice to digest. And I think also the battles are fast as well. Like, the battles do not go on for too long. I think that contributes to the feeling of speed as you go through it, is that, especially if you are nailing those timed inputs, there are lots of enemies that you can take down in one hit with a good timed input, or you can take down a group relatively quickly with timed inputs, because the splash damage will do enough to, like, if you target your enemies correctly and like you are focusing on the one with the most health, if you nail the input, then the splash damage will hopefully do enough to the others that they just die from splash damage, basically, is the idea. So yeah, I think once you have that locked in, it speeds, I think it ramps up per area as well, because as you learn the enemies and you learn what they do, it also makes it easier for you to take dodges from their attacks or defend from their attacks. And
there are like special enemies, right? And I just assume they're just more powerful versions of regular enemies.
Exactly. Yeah. I talked about it briefly before, but the special enemies I think are just souped up versions, and they just have more health and maybe do more damage. And I think they are new additions to the game, basically.
Right.
So, yeah, those spice things up a little bit. I'm going to come back to my very first note I took, which I don't think about much anymore playing the game, but it strikes me as so odd and was so off-putting when I first started the game.
Okay, what on earth is this?
There are no sound effects for dialogue boxes in this game. You know when you're playing a game and it's like, blip, 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 there's a little sound as text appears on the screen, or like a little sound for a dialogue box popping up. I think this is one of those things that didn't exist in the original, and so they haven't done anything about it in the remake. It's a classic Nintendo, we did it back then, so we'll do the same now. Like, it's so odd to have dialogue pop up and not have a little noise or a sound effect or any SFX accompany the dialogue box.
That is weird.
It just
all the turn-based RPGs of the era definitely did have that for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's a really strange one. And like I said, I don't really think about it much now that I've played a lot of the game. But for the first hour or so, I was like, this is really throwing me off. Like, it feels like I should have sound and nothing is happening here, which was very, very strange.
I never noticed that. That is a very good point.
Yeah. So I think that probably covers everything, Bally, from the first half-ish, let's say, of Super Mario RPG. Really enjoying this. I think this was a great one to choose to come back to as a first Backlog Club. I think not only because it's so rooted in Nintendo history and a lot of the things that we've played since, but also just a really interesting object from like the collaboration between Square and Nintendo, the fact that it got remade so recently and we have this like nice version to play. I think it's a good one to jump into. So yeah, very much looking forward to closing it out and seeing how that happens next time. And like we said, we'll probably have a bit of a shorter segment on it next time to close things out. But if you do have more comments, more things to talk about, hop back in on the Discord, give us some thoughts there on maybe the end of the game. And you can also email those thoughts, Bally. Where would people email those to?
Please email thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com.
Fantastic. You can also email us regular emails, which we will be potentially getting a few of in next week as our next show. And if not, we'll obviously get to them in later shows throughout the year. So please do that. That is very helpful. You can find the show in various places, and you can also support it. You can go to patreon.com/thisnintendolife. We can get bonus episodes and other fun things for supporting us. And Bally would like to thank some of our patrons.
Yes, thank you to our $10 tier plus patrons. They are Selvin C, Zach S, Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer UK, Alan, Orange Thunder, Nintendo Man, Turtle, and Ali T. Thank you all for your $10 tier plus support. But thank you also to all of our other patrons. We really, really, really appreciate all the support you give the show. We just did our predictions for 2026 from a non-Nintendo perspective. That show is out for a single $1. If you want to check that out, that was good. That was a good time. Some interesting predictions in there.
Yeah. Also, maybe one of the only predictions that has come true that I fucking called from a mile off. Like, there's one prediction in there that I nailed on the head, which I was very happy with.
Yes.
So some good stuff in there. Great. You can obviously find the show in various places. We're online, which is called the internet. You can download us from there. It's fun. I've never, tried it myself, but I've heard it's good. We're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher. We're in various places. If you have a podcasting app, just search for This Nintendo Life. Find us, download us. We'll be in your feed every couple of weeks talking about Nintendo video games. So please do that. That'd be appreciated. Also, leave reviews. You can leave those, just the star reviews on Spotify. You can do them in other places as well. I think Apple Podcasts a little less relevant these days, but still good if you want to put that somewhere. Even on Pocket Cast, you can hit a thing that is like a 5-star thing or whatever on there. So go ahead, do that. That'd be really nice. If you enjoy the show, tell other people about it and say, hey, these guys, they talk about Mario RPG. That's a good episode. Go listen to that. That'd be appreciated as well. We can also be found on the internet espousing opinions every now and again. On Blue Sky, I am at NBZ. On Blue Sky, where are you, Bally?
I am at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91. That is where you can see Bally Jr.'s skills at Donkey Kong Bonanza. I would highly recommend checking it out.
Definitely do. And you can also follow the podcast on there at TNL Podcast, where you get updates about the show and what's going on. Links to everything there as well, including our YouTube, which also has the show if you so prefer it in that format. That is, I think, going to do us. So thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with some more of this show, talking about more video games and podcasting once more. Until then, thanks, everyone, for listening. See you next time. Bye-bye.